New survey of 1,000 small business owners found that 43% are acting as their own bookkeeper every single day. Finance and accounting is the number one task they most want to hand off. 25% said so outright. That was more than those that wanted to hand off social media, more than those that wanted to hand off their marketing or fulfillment. But most of them can't afford to, so they do it themselves, and it eats hours they don't have.
So today on the Shift AI show, we're going to show you 3 ways AI can take the most painful parts of your finances off your plate. Expense categorization, which is the thing I hate more than just about anything at work. Profit and loss analysis, and a late invoice email that you won't feel cringy sending. No accounting degree required, by the way.
Yeah. I love anytime we can work in cringy. This is the Shift AI show presented by AWeber. If you can imagine it, you can do it with AWeber. Let's jump right into it.
Well, that was a little foreboding.
It was a little dramatic. Maybe I should have prompted for the cinematic music a little less dramatically. It's supposed to be like numbers coming in and building out the logo because we're dealing with numbers today. Anyway, that's what happens when you one shot your show stingers.
It works though.
It works. So there was a study done, and essentially like there were a number of tasks that. Like I think it said that the average small business owner was wearing essentially 5 hats. And to me, like honestly, I was like, just 5. But of those, bookkeeping, accounting was the number one that they would love to hand off and not handle. And frankly, almost half had not handed off. So you think about it that way, it's just even more like I think consequential. And so today I want to jump into kind of those 3 ideas that you talked about. Categorizing your expenses and analyzing them too. And I'll show that to identify issues or trends, profit and loss analysis. So you can compare quarters or years, one or the other, to identify where things are headed for your business in terms of profitability and expenses. And then just generating overdue invoice emails that, like you said, Chris said it perfectly, don't feel cringy. Because frankly, getting paid is a big piece of balancing your books. Like I need to say that for anybody, right?
Yeah. And I don't know, like I'm stoked that you're walking through this today because I get why people don't like the bookkeeping side of this because most of us aren't trained in it. Money is a really uncomfortable thing for many of us to even think about. I consider myself somewhat of an artiste, and and I'm like the charging for the things that I feel like I put artistic time and energy into.
Where you bring your value.
Yeah, and like accounting for the financial side of things is the thing I feel least adept at in my personal life, like my personal business life. So,
and I feel like we talk about it a lot on the show. Like some of the tools that we've talked about and we've demoed, at least the better ones, they might be like a skill unlock where it brings a new skill in that you otherwise didn't have. Like we talked about that with some of the development tools like Lovable or AWeber's AI sign up form builder, where it's like you used to have to either go out and learn how to do this, like how to code this thing, or find somebody that could. And this unlocks it. It brings that ability to you. Other tools, and like what we're going to talk about today, it's really less about adding a new skill set and more just like efficiency, because it doesn't matter whether you like doing the books or not. It's time consuming and tedious. And frankly, like the faster you try to go, the more mistakes that are made.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's almost like there's just like no speeding it up on your own. So I like this one, I think is like, I'm excited for it because I think it's super practical. And I also hope, we're going to show 3 simple concepts, but I hope it just kind of sparks, hey, I wonder if I could do this analysis or this accounting task using AI. Because obviously this is not like the be all end all of what you can do with it. Right. And I realized as I'm sitting here talking about it, that I have yet to share my screen. So let me do that. as we jump in here. All right, so I'm actually going to be doing this in ChatGPT today, but like you can use Claude. I ran the same prompts through Claude and got good results. This is one of those ones to me that probably comes down to personal preference. And in this case, like we have been talking a lot of Claude lately, so I figured, hey, let's give ChatGPT a turn, some fair share. Before I get started, I do want to share. If you were here last show, Chris shared this Google Doc with some of the prompts that we were talking about last show about showing up in AI search. Those are still in there. I've added the prompts that we're going to be using today so that you can copy and paste them and use them yourself. That's just going to be a running doc. So we'll share that document each time it's relevant, but basically anytime that we're using a prompt in the show and we want to share that with you and not have you have to wait for the emails, we're going to be adding it to that doc. So bookmark that, save it, come back to it and use it as much as you need to as a reference. All right, so let's jump in. In this first one, we're going to be categorizing and analyzing an expense report. Now I am using a sample. I'm actually going to go into temporary private chat, and that's just to make sure that it doesn't try to use any history from anything I did before, and it's just kind of isolated to this conversation. You don't need to do that. I'm just doing that for demo purposes so it doesn't get kind of muddied with any other work. So I am going to pull up an expense report. Apologies. An expense report that I have apparently misplaced. I'm going to add this to the conversation first and foremost. Now, this expense report, it's not like robust. I want to say there's like 30 rows in it or something like that. It's dummy data. Yours can be much more extensive, and it's still going to handle the job. But for the sake of this purpose, like I'm just showing you a more simple one. And I'm going to use this prompt. And this prompt I really like because it starts by explaining what their role is. You are a bookkeeper for a small business. Below is an expense report with dates, descriptions, and amounts. I'd like categories added using standard QuickBooks Online categories, summarize total spending by category, and then flag any transactions that are either ambiguous or like they might be duplicates or any other issues. Now you can expand on this prompt, like on your own business case, like business by business case. You may have other things that you wanted to analyze or do with the data of your expense report. But I'm going to run with that to begin with. I'm going to leave this in real time, not pre-baked. Again, I really just want it to come across how quickly it's able to handle this analysis. We'll take a really quick look at the analysis, and then we'll move on to the profit and loss. But again, I hope that these demos just kind of spark curiosity around what you can have these platforms do. While I was working through this, Chris, I had a thought pop up, and that was like treating or having sensitivity in doing accounting work where it comes to like personally identifiable information of your clients or customers. And I felt like I should know the answer to this, but like, can you answer for me? Like, you can turn off like sharing the data that you're using, right? When you're using ChatGPT or Claude to ensure that anything that you put into it is not going to be used to train
It
models.
depends on the plan at the different product that you're on.
Okay.
In some cases, if you're on the free plans for different products, you can't turn off the ability for your data to be used in training. But so like look into whatever the tool that you're using and their data policies. The thing I would say is there's some information that I would say you should never put
Mhm,
into a model. Never put your credit card information into a
mhm.
model. Don't I would say like don't put if
No
you're
bank
doing
or
development
routing.
and yeah, your bank routing numbers, any of that stuff, keep it out of the model. And like the reason or there are technologies being developed that we talked about when we were talking about Google I/O this year for handling secure authentication for payments. None
Mm,
of them involve models seeing your credit card number. It
right.
all involve or bank account information. It all involves them having access to one-time secure tokens that are generated for a specific thing. So never bank information, keep your social security number out of models.
And I think where my thinking is too, like that goes to how you handle your client and customer data too. Like ensure,
Yes.
and I'm assuming you don't have access to their credit card necessarily or things like that. But even just personally identifiable information like email and things like that, just be cautious and thoughtful about what you feed into this. So depending on the kind of data set that you're giving ChatGPT or Claude or whatever platform you're using, be really mindful of where you might need to like sanitize or remove some of that
Yeah.
personally identifiable information before you provide the data. So it went through, it categorized and very nicely here, software subscriptions, travel, meals and entertainment, utilities using standard QuickBooks Online categorization, which, you know, will translate well when it comes to like tax time, things like that. And if we get down through the bottom of it, it gave me a summary of where my spend is happening. Now, I could also do this if I did this on a monthly basis. I could ask it to look for trends over time. You know, are there trend lines that I should be aware of? Is you know, are meals and entertainment skyrocketing? Things like that. And then it also flagged where I had a duplicate transaction. So identical Delta Airlines charge 15 days apart. And it just flagged that it, you know, I should follow up and ensure that that's accurate and not a mistakenly, you know, double posted charge, including some ambiguous ones. It said, you know, it had Starbucks as meals and entertainment, could also be travel meals. So like things where I might need to do some manual work. But I mean, I don't know, we were talking in less than 2 minutes. It went through my expense report, it categorized it, it gave me an analysis, and it double checked for anything that should be like human checked afterwards in case I need to recategorize or reach out to a vendor and say, hey, I was double charged for something.
Can you have it, I know this isn't part of the demo,
Yeah.
I think, but can you have it update the spreadsheet or generate a new spreadsheet for you with these categories and whatnot?
Yeah, if especially like in my case, and I haven't tried that necessarily in ChatGPT, but I'm sure with the connector for Google Sheets to do that.
Hmm.
But I know in Claude I've done that where I can have it either add a new tab for that month, I can have it update an existing sheet within a spreadsheet, and that's the thing is like if you take 5 minutes to run your expense analysis at the end of every month and you're adding it back to that same sheet, that's a really healthy data set that it can then use to identify trends that maybe you need to be aware of, where costs might be rising in areas that you should be working against. So absolutely, and I recommend that. But you're right. I'm not gonna have it added back in here now. All right. That was straightforward, simple enough. I hope that it kind of like sparks some other ways of extending that even further. But for the sake of time, we're going to jump on to profit and loss. So again, I am going to give it my profit and loss statement. Let me go into private here. I'm going to add the file. So I just have a download CSV of my profit and loss statement here. And I'm going to add that to the chat. And then again, right from that Google Doc, we've got another prompt. This time, letting them know what I've uploaded, that I have Q1 2025 versus Q1 2026. Run a variance analysis, highlight any expense categories where spending increased more than 15% year over year, then write a 1-paragraph executive summary I could share with my business partner. And we'll let that run. Now, again, I'm sure not everybody here watching has a business partner that they need to share this kind of information with. Likely, although Chris, I know you have a business partner in Dinky, so maybe you're sitting there thinking about doing profit loss. But I mean, I think that this helps you kind of synthesize and analyze and identify again areas of opportunity, and depending on how you need to use that, it's just taking something that is virtually impossible to do any faster than you can do. Like you can't, it's just not a process that you can speed up. Um, but it's going to do it nearly instantly. So we'll have that pop up in a second, and then we're going to go ahead and very quickly draft a past due invoice email. Again, just for getting in touch with, outstanding clients with outstanding balances to help generate that revenue. So, key financial variances. It shows me where revenue increased, uh, where cost of goods sold increased. That's not great. Gross profit slightly increased as a result. Operating expenses also increased, and therefore net income declined by $700. It shows me where those increases happen. The categories that had increases of greater than 15%. It was my contractor payments, my software and tools, my advertising, and my meals and entertainment. Then it breaks down where the largest increases were: software and tools. Now, again, this is going to allow me to either say, you know what, that was an expected increase and it's sustainable, it's okay. Or it allows me to drill in and go, okay, we're going to go look at some of our software and tools that we have on hand and ensure that we're actually utilizing them and that they're necessary, because otherwise we're just giving money away, right? And then it went ahead and wrote an executive summary. Q1 2026 revenue increased 12%, driven primarily by growth in service revenue. However, profitability was pressured by significant cost increases. And it gives me just a one paragraph statement of what happened so that I can very quickly share big picture what's happening year over year. Again, you may not have that exact use case, but man, to be able to take something that requires data analysis, and then interpreting that data and what happened, and boiling it down to something that takes about 2 minutes. I mean, we're talking about, you can do your expense reporting, your profit and loss analysis, and contact everybody who still owes you money, and you can make that maybe a half hour of your month or an hour of your month versus 10 hours of your week. And that's just, to me, that's just incredible. So that was profit and loss analysis. Chris, any questions, any thoughts?
No, this one's a pretty straightforward one, but useful again, because like the thing about all this stuff is like it's relatively easy to do. Like you were saying at the beginning, it's relatively easy to do. It's just something you avoid, or I'll speak for myself. I avoid doing because it takes some time and I don't feel expert at it. Just to be able to put it in a place and have a tool like ChatGPT or Claude do the first pass on this is the
Mhm.
the unlock here is that, like, it's doing the thing I
Yeah.
didn't feel confident
Yeah.
doing, even though I was capable
Yeah.
of it. It's really helpful.
Well, and I think, like, so some of us may not have a requirement or a need for like a profit and loss analysis. But I think any entrepreneur, small business owner, uh, side hustler would benefit from one, because it allows you to identify like unnecessary spend or gaps in revenue, or where margins have shrunk and shouldn't have. Rather than, I know as somebody who freelanced for a really long time, I should have been looking at my perform. I mean, I did it for 15 years pretty consistently. I had a lot of data to look at and a lot of change year over year. And the only number that I really looked at as a freelancer was the amount that I made at the end of the year. I didn't look at where I was spending, where I wasn't charging enough, where income was declining and expenses were increasing, because I had no requirement to do profit and loss. But man, I could have used it. you know.
Same.
Yeah. So and again, like the accounting tasks that you have to handle, and I hope that what you understand is like there is so much of it that you can hand off and have analyzed quickly. I will say with those first two examples, and Chris and I say this with everything, like this is not to take you out of the loop. I would still verify,
Mhm.
fact check, make sure that it's not making mistakes with the numbers. You don't want to take it as 100% gospel. I do find it very reliable. You always want to fact check. Just like if you had an external accountant providing you numbers, you would still want to make sure that they hadn't made a mistake.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change here.
Yeah, but ChatGPT, I will say, is less likely to embezzle from you, so that's got that going for it.
You know,
But so far,
that
actually,
was one
yeah.
of the benefits I had not considered, but man, maybe I should have led with that. Like new YouTube headline for this episode that's like how to avoid your accountant embezzling all of your income by using
Yeah.
ChatGPT. We'll try it. Maybe we'll split test that title. Lastly, and this one's like maybe kind of silly. Maybe this isn't like totally accounting, but I was thinking about it and I was like, again, going back to like all those years of freelancing, overdue invoices was pretty much interchangeable with invoice because
Mhm.
none of them were paid on time. So sending those emails, it was always a chore, partly because of my personality. I hate asking people for money, even though I know I've provided a service already. Um, and so I was always uncomfortable and I would hem and haw and sit there like, how do I write this with the right balance of like being direct and firm, but still human and understanding? And then I would fall back on when I started using a tool like QuickBooks, I would fall back on, oh, just send reminder emails. But those were cold and completely absent um, of those were completely absent of personality or relationship. And so that was problematic too, because I think they're really easy to ignore when it's just like, ah, that was generated by QuickBooks, whatever. I'll get to that eventually. That's not really from Jesse, you know? So anyway, quick prompt. I run a small consulting business. A client owes me $2,400 for a project completed on May 1st. The invoice is now 38 days past due. Write me a professional but firm payment reminder email. Keep it polite. Acknowledge that things get busy, but make it clear I need payment this week. Sign it from Jordan. Apparently, we're going with my middle name in this case. So we'll run that one, and it's just going to very quickly draft a very I think strong email. Again, you could make changes if you wanted to, but for me, if I'm freelancing and I've got 10 outstanding invoices that I'm trying to collect on, I'm just going to copy and paste this and send it. And again, I just think this is one of those areas where I think a lot of us maybe overlook that we could be using this to help unblock some of those rote tasks that maybe we aren't comfortable doing, we don't like doing, take up time that we don't want to spend. Yeah. So hopefully this short demo helps you understand how you can offload a lot of your accounting work. If you're not loving it, I know a lot of small business owners did not get into the business that they're doing because they love accounting. And frankly, even if you do love doing it, you just recognize that it takes a lot of your time and you are either wasting, adding too many hours to your day doing that, or you're not analyzing what's happening with your business and you're missing out on opportunities to identify like gaps and areas of opportunity. To me, that's like honestly the bigger part of it is like, I know for a lot of us, and again, going back to that personal experience, I just didn't do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I
Same.
wish I had analyzed, my average project fee and profitability and things and those changes over time so that I could have understood where I was taking this thing rather than just kind of flying blind and going, well, we made this much at the end of the year. So hopefully it unlocks kind of just maybe more analysis and insight for people too.
Yeah. And it's simple stuff like that. Like whenever Jesse or I are working with like a new team member who's trying to learn to use AI, Aweber has a really kind of robust AI development and
Mhm.
design discipline. But when they're trying to like understand how to get comfortable with these tools, the thing that we tell people frequently is just like find the little tedious thing
Yeah.
and collaborate with AI on it. Use ChatGPT or in our case, Claude to get it to do the thing
Yep.
for you. The easy thing that just takes time, have it do that so you can do the hard things that take creativity and taste. This is one of those cases where I think the invoice you've shared is a great example of that. Like you could have written that, but that wasn't something that took creativity or taste. It just took getting over an emotional hurdle of not wanting to write it
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say,
then
and for
hitting the send
me,
button.
that was probably 20 minutes to get to that output of
Yeah.
oh no, I should write it this way. Oh, let me reread it again. Oh no, I should do this. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, just get that email out. that doesn't need my touch or my emotional
Yeah.
baggage that I bring to writing those emails.
Yeah. So I see, Vinny just said, I always forget to calculate in PayPal fees, so my P&L is always wrong. This is a great use case for something I think we've talked about in the past, ChatGPT projects,
Yeah.
where you can give a project rules. So like when you see income from a source tagged as PayPal, apply the PayPal transaction fees. And you can give it guidance on what those fees are, or you can have it rely on its knowledge of things. But to set rules so you don't have to remember every time when the tool is evaluating for you.
Yeah, that's a great uses of a project versus just a fresh conversation where there uh, guidelines and set boundaries that are requirements every single time. You like you said it in your chat, Vinny. I always forget. It won't.
Yeah.
It will
Yeah.
be told once and it will remember. It's one of those things we talk about a lot where, I hesitate sometimes to say it, but it's like as somebody who's worked with a lot of, entry level designers or freelancers or assistants, you find yourself giving the same feedback time and time again until it really takes root sometimes of, hey, remember, we only use this font. Hey, remember, this is
Hmm.
for better or worse with projects like that, you only have to tell it once and it's not gonna, it's gonna remember that. And plus when you provide it feedback on ongoing work, it retains and
Yeah.
learns from it and doesn't kind of repeat the same mistakes over and over.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great call out from Vinny. I mean, it's another reason to be using it. Vinny is doing profit and loss statements, hopefully more efficiently and fast now, while getting better insight out of it and more accurately because it's hopefully in this new iteration won't be forgetting to apply things like PayPal
Yeah.
fees.
We also got another like a question from Jim that is like about sensitive content in models. Jim was asking, do I need to provide my password? Do you need to give ChatGPT your password to enter your account? And this is regardless of whatever account this might be talking about, whether it's Google Docs or Aweber or an accounting software. Never put your password directly into ChatGPT or Claude chats or Gemini chat. Never. Like they're either use an official MCP, which we've talked about on previous videos, for a service, or ideally find the official connector or app for the
Mhm.
tool that you're trying to use. So like in our case, we have an Aweber app and Google has a Google app or Google Docs app in the ChatGPT marketplace, which I included a link to. Like they have secure authentication flows for you to sign up where you're not going to be exposing your password or login credentials to the model. Because in the worst case scenario, and like the model companies say that they try and scrub information that shouldn't be in the models, but in the worst case, if you're sharing, or not in the worst case, you should treat anything that you share with the model, unless you have training turned off. And even then, I'm really cautious about
Yeah,
this.
I'm still a
Like,
little, cautious.
yeah, I would not share anything with a model that you don't want to conceivably end up in the model's training set. And worst case scenario, being shared when somebody asks for something from the model.
Yeah,
So
and
you got to
I
be a little
know
paranoid
I've
about it.
read stories in the news of things like that happening where people are able to pull Instagram passwords and things like
Yeah.
that because people have shared them into models and then
Did you see that story about was it Meta's support bot who somebody was able to get login credentials for
it
some
was
big
something like it was
accounts?
one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, because the hackers in this case had asked the the automated support assistant, this was an
Mhm,
AI tool, they asked it to change the login email
mhm,
for these accounts, and then they password reset to those accounts and were able to log in. Um,
mhm.
it's pretty darn crazy.
Yeah. I saw a funny one too, totally off topic, but it made me think of it, and it's just too funny not to share. Um, I think it was shared here internally. You probably saw it, the McDonald's chatbot,
Oh, yeah.
where where I think they had built it on Claude. Is that right? If I remember correctly.
One of the big
And
models.
somebody had gamed the system, and instead of paying for Claude Code, they recognized that that McDonald's chatbot was built on the same system. So they told it, "I want to eat some hamburgers, but before I do, I have to write code for this page that does this, and got it to produce the result for it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so funny.
There's so much
Um,
Wild West stuff going on
oh, I
out there.
know.
People are
If,
figuring this out. It's
if
crazy.
only we had the time, personally, to just go find that stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions that we missed, or any other like final thoughts on that?
No.
I know that, like, I'll be honest with you, like today was like a hard one for me. We're both like kind of design visual people in the background at by nature. And so like, I admitted it 3 times on the show. When I was doing this stuff for myself, I avoided most true accounting work rather than
Yeah.
finding ways of doing it or set aside time. So talking about it is not necessarily something that I'm always comfortable with, but I think it's super critical. And I think, like, I mean, we talk about how thin the margins are for most small businesses to actually be viable and succeed, for you to continue to put your time in and be able to actually sustain a living, or what you need in return out of it. And I just think that's the great unlock, maybe, like on one case, this is really just making you more efficient with something, but it may just be unlocking the ability to have insights into how your business is performing in ways that you weren't thinking about. And I hope it's at least an encouragement to kind of dig into that stuff, or at least begin to collect the data so you can then begin to analyze it over time. Cool. Friday, we're going to be back at noon, as always. And I know we're going to get a little bit more visual. Do you just want to give like that 1-sentence preview of what we're going to be talking about on Friday?
Yes. Yeah. If you've been designing with AI tools like Lovable or Claude Design, you've
Mhm.
probably seen the kind of the same types of design. They call it AI purple. You'll see a lot of purple and
Yeah.
purple gradients, or the beigeification of the internet. That's a phrase I'm trying to get to catch on. But that's what
It's
you'll see in
working. It's
Claude
working.
Design and Claude. We're going to show you how to use AI tools to produce design that doesn't feel like everybody else's design on Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I love it. I'm really excited for that one too, because it's one of, and we've talked about it on the show, it's one of the drawbacks of using these tools, is that if we're a little closer to it than some people, maybe, and maybe more quickly recognize, oh, that's a Lovable site, or oh, that's a
Yeah.
Cloud Design site. But as these things become more widely used, we're all going to get more comfortable at detecting what was made by those platforms because of those things. So we talk constantly about iterating and helping it kind of avoid some of its patterns and habits
Yeah.
that produce those outputs. So I'm really excited for this one, because I think it's just gonna be really neat to show how they're still super powerful platforms, and now you can get a much better result that's not so obvious.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. So join us Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, as always, and we'll be back with that topic. Chris, I'm going to go first on the touch grass because I'm just awkwardly excited. But I don't know if everybody here knows, in 2 days, there's a large global soccer tournament starting. And I am just ridiculously excited. I added every single match to our shared family calendar. And now I'm just waiting for Katie to get really mad, because there's just so much noise on there, like 3 matches a day. You can't even see like when the kids are supposed to get picked up or anything like that anymore. All that noise.
You're a big Brazil supporter, right?
Oh no. Oh,
It's just
painful. I can't believe it. Only thing worse if you'd said Argentina. I'm a big Kingdom of the Netherlands supporter. And I'm excited. I'm actually going to take my son and daughter and my wife. We're all going to fly to Houston for their second match.
awesome.
So
That's
that'll be
so
my
exciting.
touch grass moment for about a lifetime. What
That's
about
cool.
you? What are you going to do midweek here to get out and get away?
My thing is much smaller than that. So I have like a little garden in the front of my house, and I love
Yeah.
it. And today, one of the things that I'm doing is just like pruning the dead growth off of some of the flowers and plants in my garden. It's really cathartic, and it
Yeah.
feels great.
I love that. We just installed a bit of a vegetable garden in the back, caged in to try to avoid having the rabbits and squirrels completely
Good
destroy.
luck.
I know we live in the same neighborhood, and the squirrels are next level vicious here. So we'll see how that goes.
Jesse, you got a question from DJ Cumo 76. What kind of camera are you using?
Oh, I'm actually using my iPhone paired to the computer. I've actually found it like really easy to do. It allows me to zoom, adjust lighting, recenter, and just produces a really nice camera quality compared to some of the maybe overpriced webcams that I had invested in previously.
Awesome.
Yeah, really simple to do. Highly recommend it. And Vinny, I just want to say we still love you, and I'm glad that you're here. And I'm glad that you've been watching for a long time. And I hope that you're still back on Friday. We'll just have to agree to disagree about soccer. I wholeheartedly agree on the insane price of, living and existing in North America during this tournament. That's gotten out of control. But hey, I'm going to focus on the soccer. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. As always, this is a lot of fun. Can't wait to come back and talk about some design topics on Friday, which Chris is going to bring to us. And yeah, I hope that you take one thing and go use it. Go to aweber.com/shift if you want to ask us a question, or if you just want to share with us what you applied or implemented and the result that you got. We always love seeing that. And you can sign up for our newsletter there as well. Thanks, everybody.
Drew is really good at making other people look really good.
Stunning.
And with the help of AWeber's marketing platform, he's built an entire audience on his ability to turn heads. So even though Drew's just a team of one, it never really feels that way.
That's a wrap, folks. Come on out.
Drew uses AWeber. It's how teams of one get more done.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Have sweet. You're the best, Tim.
With AWeber, it's like he has a whole staff helping him grow his audience and build professional-looking content.
And send. You got it. Great job, team.
From automated email campaigns.
Oh, of course, sign up. You got it from here?
To insight-packed reports.
How are we looking on new subscribers? Is that the day we launch the new course? Nice.
AWeber gives Drew the freedom to go forth.
Hey.
And be Drew. AWeber. Time to love what you do.